My name is Noah Grant. I'm 34 years old, a single dad, and last month my family forgot my son existed. They swore they'd be at his 10th birthday, then ghosted us. A week later, my mother sent an invite to my niece's sweet 16 $2.500 per person, my name already printed as a sponsor. Not a sorry, not a word. Just an invoice wearing glitter. I looked at my son's empty chairs, the melted candles, and thought maybe this is the day I finally stop fixing what they keep breaking. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from. And hit like and subscribe if you've ever been betrayed by family. Because sometimes the people who share your blood are the first ones to cut you deepest. In this story, what happened after that birthday will make you think twice about who deserves a place at your table. I grew up in a house where silence meant danger. The kind of silence that hummed under the refrigerator light and made you hold your breath until someone spoke first. My mother, Linda, was a woman of commands, not conversations. She didn't ask, she declared. Noah, clear the table. Noah, help your brother. Noah, you're the man now. I was 19 when she said that last one right after my dad drove off for good in a rusted Ford that coughed smoke down the driveway. The taillights disappeared, and her voice filled the space he left behind like cement. I didn't know it back then, but that sentence would stick to my ribs for years. You're the man now. It sounded like trust, but it was a trap disguised as duty. Ashley was already the star of the family. She could do no wrong. Mom called her our sunshine girl even when she maxed out credit cards on makeup and weekend trips. Dylan, my younger brother, was the reckless one, funny, charming, and forever broke. Somehow I was the glue that held their chaos together. Every family has one. The fixer. The one who makes sure the lights stay on while everyone else complains about the color of the bulbs. I remember one Thanksgiving when I was 22. I came home from my part-time job at a repair shop smelling like solder and cheap coffee. The house was glowing with fairy lights. Ashley's boyfriend sat at the table carving the turkey like he owned the place. Mom was laughing, glass of wine in hand, her laugh sharp enough to cut glass. She turned to me and said, "Sweetie, could you run to the store? We forgot cranberry sauce." I just walked in, hands still cold from the wind. But I nodded, grabbed my keys, and went. That was the rhythm of my life. Other people's forgetfulness became my responsibility. When Ashley launched her wellness blog, I built her website from scratch. I paid for 6 months of hosting because, as she said, "It'll pay off when I'm famous." Dylan called me the family accountant. He meant it as a joke, but it landed like a bruise. I kept telling myself it was fine. That's what family does. We help each other. But somehow each other always meant me helping them. Mom's version of love came with a receipt. She'd say things like, "I gave you life, the least you can do is," and the sentence never needed finishing. I'd fill in the blank myself. Fix her car, drive her to urgent care, cover her bills until next month. When Eli was born, things changed, but only for me. Not for them. I promised myself my son would never feel like love was conditional. He'd never wonder if he mattered. He'd have cake, even when money was tight, apologies when people messed up, and someone who actually showed up. We lived in a small rental outside the city. The paint peeled on the porch and the faucet dripped, but it was ours. I built a small backyard out of borrowed chairs, a second-hand grill, and the kind of hope that keeps tired men going. I used to think my family would come around once they saw Eli, once they saw how much it meant to me to raise him right. But old habits don't die, they just find new ways to disappoint you. I didn't know it back then, but the seeds of what happened later were already planted. Every "sure, I'll handle it," every "don't worry, I got it" was watering the wrong garden. And one day, that garden would choke the life out of mine. When I was 26, Mom caught the flu but refused to admit it. I found her in the kitchen pail trying to baste a turkey she could barely lift. "You're burning yourself out," I said, taking the pan from her. She frowned like I'd insulted her pride. If I stop, everything falls apart. The irony was she'd already taught me that lesson too well. I drove her to urgent care that night, sat in the waiting room until 2 a.m., and paid the bill because her insurance had lapsed. She never said thank you. Instead, she patted my hand and said, "You're such a good son. You always take care of me." That line should have warned me. Instead, it landed like a chain around my neck. Ashley called the next morning from Los Angeles. She wanted advice about branding. I told her I was sitting in the hospital with Mom, but she barely paused. "Okay, but should I use serif or sans serif for the logo?" That was my sister, unbothered, untouchable, and somehow always in need of me. Dylan was worse in a different way. He'd always been the golden boy when it came to Mom. She excused everything: his DUI, his lost jobs, the way he talked to people like life was a scam he'd already solved. I once bailed him out of jail and watched him light a cigarette in the parking lot before saying, "You're a real one, bro. I'll pay you back." He never did. Still, I kept showing up. Maybe it was guilt, maybe habit. Family was a word I'd mistaken for duty. Then came the Christmas when the truth finally cracked through. Eli was 4. He'd drawn a picture of all of us, me, him, Grandma Linda, Aunt Ashley, Uncle Dylan, stick figures holding hands. I showed it to Mom at dinner. She smiled thinly and said, "Oh, how sweet," before turning to Dylan. "Did you hear about that promotion you didn't get? They're idiots." She said it loud, performative, as if comfort was theater. Ashley scrolled through her phone, half listening, murmuring, "Aha." Nobody asked Eli about his drawing. Nobody asked about me. Later that night, while washing dishes, I caught my reflection in the window, face older than my age, eyes tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. That's when the thought landed. What if they never change? I didn't know it then, but that moment was the quiet rehearsal for what would happen years later. Time passed. I built a stable life for Eli. Fixed networks by day, fixed dinner by night. Every dollar had a job, every Sunday, a ritual. Eli's laughter filled spaces my family's absence used to haunt. But Linda, Ashley, and Dylan stayed the same, contacting me only when something broke. Quick favor. Emergency. Don't tell anyone I asked. Those were the subject lines of my family life. Last winter, Ashley called at midnight. My credit card got declined at the airport. "Can you Venmo me?" She was flying to a meditation retreat in Bali. I wired the money, then lay awake staring at the ceiling fan. The sound of the blades was steady, almost hypnotic, and I realized I was funding people who'd forgotten how to care. When spring came, Linda sent a spreadsheet titled Holiday Gift Budget. Color-coded. Neat columns. Equal split among the kids. Equal meant me. I laughed, then hated myself for laughing. I still bought them gifts, habit again. The only one who didn't expect anything was Eli. He made me a card with construction paper and glue that said, "You're my favorite grown-up." I kept that card on my desk. It reminded me that loyalty shouldn't hurt. That maybe being a good man didn't mean being everyone's safety net. I didn't know it back then, but the next birthday party would be the breaking point, the day my silence finally expired. Eli's 10th birthday fell on a Saturday in June, the kind of day that should have smelled like sunscreen and laughter. I'd spent the week cleaning the yard, hanging blue streamers, and borrowing folding chairs from Mrs. Rivera across the street. She handed me an extra cooler and said, "Full house, huh?" I smiled like it was true. My mother had texted, "We'll be there. Wouldn't miss it." Ashley added sparkle emojis. Dylan sent a thumbs up. That morning, Eli was up at sunrise rearranging his Lego spaceship so it could sit on the snack table. "Dad, do you think Grandma's bringing the cupcakes she promised?" I nodded, even though I already knew not to count on it. He wore his favorite shirt, white with tiny blue rockets, and ran circles around the yard while I grilled hot dogs. At noon, 6 of his classmates showed up. Their laughter filled the yard like sunlight. I kept checking my phone between flips of the burgers. Nothing. 1:00 p.m. Still nothing. I told myself maybe they were stuck in traffic. Maybe Linda was fixing her hair. At 2:15, I texted, "Everything okay?" No response. When the pizza guy arrived, I asked him to wait a second just in case a line of cars appeared. He glanced over my shoulder at the small crowd of kids and said, "You're good, man." His pity was gentle, but it still hurt. At 3:00, the sun started to slide lower. The shadows stretched long across the grass, and I realized nobody was coming. Eli didn't ask. He just said, "Can we do cake now?" and gathered his friends. I held the knife, smiling through the burn behind my eyes, and we sang. He blew out his candles in one breath, frosting on his chin, joy untouched. That was the thing about kids, they didn't see absence the way adults did. When the last child left, we cleaned up together. The yard looked smaller without the noise. Inside, I scrolled the family group chat. Nothing. Then at 3, 4, 7, Mom finally replied, "Don't be dramatic. It's just a kid's party." I read it twice because my brain refused to process it the first time. No sorry, no we're late, no happy birthday. Just that sentence, sharp, dismissive, cold. Something inside me cracked quiet and deep. That night I sat on the couch, while Eli slept, his hand still gripping a slice of cold pizza. The house smelled like sugar and silence. My phone buzzed again, a voice note from Mom. Her tone was brisk, almost bored. "He's 10, Noah. He'll barely remember. Don't make everything about you." I stared at the dark window until my reflection blurred. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt. I felt distance. Clean, empty distance. 2 days later, I woke up to a message thread that didn't feel real. Important. RSVP by Wednesday. Sweet 16 for Haley Harper. $2.500 per person. Venmo Linda. Attached was a PDF with a picture of my niece in a tiara and a ballroom dripping in gold decor. At the bottom under gold sponsors was my name, Noah Grant. My coffee went cold in my hand. They hadn't come to their grandson's birthday, but were hosting a gala-level party for Ashley's daughter. And somehow I was sponsoring it. I scrolled. Ashley, we're all in. Coco can't do less than premium, right? Dylan, yo, open bar. Totally worth it. Mom, we'll need Noah to cover grandma's spot too. She's on a fixed income. It wasn't even a question. Just an order. I typed no, then deleted it. My fingers shook not from fear, but from restraint. Words with my family never landed, they just floated until someone twisted them. So I decided not to argue this time. I decided to show them. That evening I printed the sponsor page and laid it beside my grocery list. Two columns, one titled What I Do, the other What They Ask. Under mine, soccer fees, rent, website, hosting Eli's doctor visit. Under theirs, deposit for Suite 16, grandma's spot, sponsor banner. It looked absurd on paper, yet that was the shape of my life, me footing the bill for other people's pride. I took a picture of the sheet almost to remind myself it was real. Then I poured another cup of cold coffee and stared at the photo of my niece in her tiara. The caption read, "Family means everything." The next morning, Mom texted again, "Don't be difficult. Your cousin's only 16 once." I replied with one word, "No." My hand trembled, but it wasn't weakness, it was relief. At 1:17 that afternoon, the family group chat lit up like a circus. Ashley posted a boomerang of mimosas. Dylan dropped a gym selfie. Mom forwarded one of her glittery prayer quotes. That was my moment. I took a photo of the backyard from Eli's birthday, the folding chairs lined up like gravestones, the banner that said Level 10, the half-eaten cake box on the table. I posted it in the chat. This was Eli's party. You said you'd come. The typing dots appeared instantly. Ashley, why are you posting that here? Text me. Mom, don't guilt us. You know how busy Saturdays are. Dylan, bro, don't be a martyr. Kids don't care. I didn't reply. I posted a screenshot of their old messages. Mom's, "We'll be there, Ashley's, can't wait," and Dylan's, "Count me in." Then beneath it, the brunch photo of them together that same day, smiling, under the caption, "My people." Silence. 10 seconds. Then Mom again. "Enough. We're focusing on Haley's big day now. Be an adult." I typed slowly. "I am. I'm Eli's dad." For a long moment, no one answered. Then Ashley finally wrote, "Don't make everything about your kid." That sentence hit harder than I expected. I could feel my pulse in my jaw. "You didn't come to your own nephew's birthday," I wrote. "And now you're sending me a $2,500 invoice. You put my name as a sponsor without asking. You told the venue I'd handle the deposit. You called me difficult when I said nothing. Here's my answer, no." I hit send. Then I opened Venmo, found Mom's account, and sent her $1. The note, "Congratulations." It felt cleaner than any argument. An hour later, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, messages, voicemails, the whole family choir. I didn't answer. I drove to the hardware store, bought a new lock set, and changed every key before the sun went down. The metal clicked smooth in my hand like closure. That night I blocked their numbers. Not out of spite, but survival. I needed quiet, the kind that doesn't demand repayment. 2 mornings later, the knock came. Firm, steady. When I peered through the peephole, 2 officers stood outside. "Morning, sir." "We got a call," one said. Inside, Eli sat at the table eating cereal, his legs swinging. I opened the door. "Come in." The taller officer, Tanner, scanned the room with professional calm. Family member reported concerns. Said there were threats made, possible property withheld. I exhaled. "Property? You mean the old house key I changed?" I held it up between 2 fingers. "They can have it." The younger cop, Cole, smiled faintly. "Any weapons in the home?" "Only butter knives," I said. "And some Lego swords." Eli giggled from the table. We moved to the kitchen. I showed them my phone screenshots, emails, the Venmo dollar, the PDF with my stolen name. I laid everything out like evidence in a case I didn't ask for. Tanner scrolled, then looked at me. "We see this a lot," he said. "Families get used to a thing. Someone changes the terms. They panic." He paused, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "You went to Northfield High, right? We were in the same shop class." The memory clicked. I remembered him standing by the broken radio I'd fixed for extra credit. "I remember," I said quietly. He nodded. "You're good, Noah. We'll log this as no threat, no concern." When they left, the house fell into the softest quiet I'd ever heard. No buzzing phone, no orders, no guilt. Just me, Eli, and the hum of the fridge. I didn't know it then, but that visit, the knock, the lock, the silence afterward wasn't the end. It was the prelude to everything that came next. The morning after the police visit, I thought the storm had passed. The air felt different, lighter, almost sterile. For the first time in years, I made breakfast without checking my phone. Eli hummed while buttering toast, sunlight cutting gold lines across the table. I wanted to believe peace could last. But peace doesn't survive in families that feed on chaos. By noon, an email landed in my inbox from Silvercrest Ballroom. Subject line: confirmation of sponsorship payment. My stomach turned before I even clicked it. Inside, the message was polite, sterile, devastating. We've received verbal confirmation from Mrs. Linda Grant that you have recommitted as a gold sponsor. Remaining balance due by Friday. They had done it again. Lied. Spoken for me. Turned my silence into consent. I called the venue immediately. This is Noah Grant. I didn't authorize any sponsorship. Remove my name now. The manager, Mr. Lowell, sounded uneasy. I understand, sir, but Mrs. Grant said you'd changed your mind. We were told the family had pooled funds under your name. They didn't. I cut in. I have written proof that I declined. If my name appears anywhere, I'll consider it fraud. He hesitated. Let me verify fast, I said. Because if that event happens with my name on it, I'll be there with police and documents. I hung up. My hand shook, but it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline, the body's applause after finally standing up for itself. That night, the group chat reignited under a new name, Family Only, No Drama. The irony almost made me laugh. Ashley started first. You embarrassed Mom. The venue said you threatened legal action. Are you insane? Dylan chimed in. Bro, calm down. It's just an event. Then Mom. You've humiliated me in front of everyone. People are asking questions. How could you do this to your family? I typed slowly, deliberately. How could you put my name on something I never agreed to? You called the police on me. You tried to make me look unstable. You don't get to play victim now. Mom replied within seconds. We were worried about you. Worried was her favorite weapon. It meant control wrapped in concern. I deleted the chat. All of it. Years of messages, guilt orders, apologies, requests gone with a single tap. Friday night arrived. The night of the Sweet 16. I half expected a knock, another accusation, another ambush. Instead, the world stayed still. I took Eli to the park. The air smelled like cut grass and rain about to fall. We shot hoops until the streetlights flickered on. He laughed every time he scored, even when the ball barely brushed the rim. Back home, I grilled burgers while he lined up action figures along the railing. Inside, my laptop chimed a new email. Silvercrest Ballroom update. I opened it, heart hammering. Dear Mr. Grant, your name has been removed from all digital and printed materials. We apologize for the miscommunication. We have also received multiple calls regarding financial discrepancies for this event. The matter is under internal review. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. My quiet revenge had found its mark. The next morning, Aunt Maggie called from an unknown number. You heard what happened? Her voice held both shock and admiration. The venue canceled the bar service mid-party. Reporters showed up. Someone tipped them about fake sponsors. Ashley was screaming at the staff. Linda nearly fainted when the bill came. I didn't respond. I just looked at Eli, still asleep on the couch, a half-built Lego fortress beside him. Maggie sighed. You did what your father never could. You stopped her. I watched the light crawl across the floorboards and said quietly, No, Aunt Maggie. I just stopped fixing her. For the first time in my life, that sentence didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like freedom. By Sunday, the family group chat had turned into a war zone I no longer cared to witness. Screenshots flew across cousins' stories, captions dripping with blame. Some people can't stand others' success. Blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. They thought they were writing parables. I'd already written my ending. I spent the morning in the backyard with Eli, planting a small lemon tree beside the fence. He asked, Will it grow big? I told him. If we water it and don't let anyone stomp on it. He nodded seriously, like he understood this wasn't about fruit. Inside, I opened my laptop and dragged a folder from my desktop to a new drive labeled Boundaries. Screenshots, audio clips, emails, the full paper trail of everything they'd done, filed neatly, timestamped. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about protection. Still, part of me took quiet satisfaction knowing that truth has teeth when you keep receipts. That night, a message slipped through from an unfamiliar number. This is Mr. Lowell. Thank you for alerting us earlier. We've reported the fraudulent sponsorship list to our accounting firm. They're investigating possible tax misrepresentation. I stared at the screen for a long time. A small cold smile crept up before I closed the laptop. Down the hall, Eli was asleep with the nightlight glowing on his face. I stood there listening to the hum of the quiet house, the kind of quiet that isn't empty but earned. They thought cutting me off would isolate me. Instead, it insulated me. The locks clicked, the noise stopped, and in that silence I heard something new, peace, steady, and alive. They hadn't destroyed me. They just handed me the one weapon I needed, proof, calm, and the will to never fix them again. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, hit subscribe. Because stories like mine aren't rare, they're just the ones no one talks about. Sometimes walking away isn't cruelty, it's clarity. Sometimes saying no is the loudest kind of love. I don't know what comes next for me and Eli, but for the first time the house feels ours. Stay tuned. This story isn't over, and neither is yours.